Seriously, this week's episode of My Hero Academia was a triumphant celebration of the human spirit. An epic race between superheroes of all shapes and sizes with varying powers, some of them being elegant, some of them being destructive, and yet at the end of the day, the winner of the very first race didn't even have to use a single superpower. This week's episode had me jumping out of my chair. I was so excited. It brought me back to the early days of watching the original Naruto anime series, a point in my life where I just decided to start watching anime again. And I love me a good underdog story, and that's definitely the tones that I'm getting from this week's episode. So while it might not be that shocking that the main character won the very first round, the way that he actually pulls it off manages to make this one of the most exciting episodes of My Hero Academia. And despite the fact that Izuku Midoriya is indeed the hero of the day, there are a lot of other great character moments, not to mention introduction of some really fantastic characters. So, the overall story in this week's episode is very simple. Just all of the other students making their way through this big obstacle course, having to fight against robots, and going across this massive chasm with a lot of pitfalls, and then having to navigate their way through a minefield. And basically the entire episode is an excuse to see our favorite characters overcome these odds, as well as being introduced to some brand new students, such as Tetsu. That's actually his name, and I'm guessing that's how you pronounce it, and very much like Eijiro, he has the power of being able to cover his entire body with a hardening substance, with Eijiro being able to basically harden his body into rock, and Tetsu being able to basically become Colossus from the X-Men. His entire outer exterior can actually be covered in steel, and they demonstrate their powers at the beginning of the episode when one of those massive robots falls on top of them, seemingly crushing them to death, but because of their superhero abilities, they break out. Tetsu is really awesome, and frankly, I just love saying his name out loud, and he's sort of like a carbon copy of a lot of combinations of characters in this series. What I mean by that is there are a lot of big egos on the course this week. I mean, you have characters like Katsuki Bakugo, who manages to completely surprise me in every single episode that he appears in, because he's such a friggin' asshole. He's such a dick. You're not supposed to like him, but the moment where he starts to get close to Shoto Todoroki in this week's episode just had me cheering. I absolutely loved it, and I still love the way that he's able to sort of navigate this course by using his explosions to give him momentum to basically just fly across just about any single surface. And frankly, he's just a really fun character. And therein lies a lot of the drama in this week's episode, where it looks like the two contenders are indeed going to be Katsuki and Shoto, and by the end of the episode, Izuku Midoriya is this much closer, getting close to them, and that's when they decide to kick things up to 11, and they end up having this race, which basically ends in a photo finish. And the first half of the race, again, is basically just more taking down robots, but we get to see a lot of the characters overcome the odds, as well as getting to see some other characters they don't focus on that much, like Hanta, who has the ability to have tape come out from his elbows, which is strange as shit, but is surprisingly effective. He's able to fly around like Spider-Man. And then there's Fumikage, who is still one of my favorite characters, who is able to summon that weird, ghostly, shadowy bird thing, which you can actually like ride around on, and allows him to get across a lot of these obstacles pretty easily. And then we're introduced to another new character who goes by the name of Mei, who, unlike a lot of the other superheroes, actually seems to rely on technology in order to get across this course. She's wearing all these weird things like these booster jets on her boots. She can also shoot these cables out, which allows her to basically, again, just like Hanta, act like freaking Spider-Man. And she seems like she's going to be one hell of a contender, but she actually ends up in the lower bracket towards the end. So she doesn't really have a quirk, but she seems to have super smarts, and she has a really cool design. I actually love the look of her eyes, which are actually these like targets, and it's just a really nice color scheme too. Her yellow eyes with her pink banana-shaped hair. She's a really unique looking character, and honestly you can say that about just about every single character in the series. They're all so incredibly unique, and not a single character design is reused, and that's definitely one of the best things about this series. You find yourself actually rooting for just about every single character and seeing how they're going to get across all of these crazy obstacles. The second one in particular is a lot more fun because it's this giant chasm, which is only connected by these small, thin tight ropes, and everybody has an interesting way of getting across, like Suyu the frog girl, who has perfect balance, is able to simply just walk across on all fours. Tenya Ida looks like a complete and total doofus when he's riding across at like this really slow speed while trying to keep his balance. Of course, Shoto is using his ice and Katsuki just sort of blasts over the entire chasm. And Izuku doing things the good old-fashioned way, just hanging on the ropes and making his way to each platform. But that's when we get to the most interesting part of the episode, which is this big minefield that they'll have to navigate. And luckily, these mines are not going to completely kill anyone. They're basically just a big explosion, which are very loud and meant to shock people and just send them back to the end of the pack. And everybody has their own way of getting through, with Shoto just sort of carefully walking through, Katsuki exploding through with his special abilities, and everybody just sort of narrowly dodging things. But at the beginning of the episode, Izuku Midoriya actually found this piece of a robot, which he used as a shield, as well as to fight back against the other robots. And what he does is, when he gets to the minefield, he looks at what Katsuki is doing and he figures, I bet I could take advantage of this. And he ends up using this to dig up a couple of the mines, make a huge pile of them, jump down on top of it, and use the explosive force of all of these mines to throw himself forward, going past both Katsuki and Shoto, but still not coming up with the plan of how he's actually going to stop himself. And it looks like they're about to pass him, when suddenly in midair, he flips around, throws this thing down right in between all of them, causing an explosion to throw them back, force him forward to make him win the very first round. It is freaking great. It's so damn triumphant, and it made me fall in love with the series over again. I'm loving My Hero Academia in ways that I frankly cannot explain. It's one of my favorite, shonen series at this point. If you know what I mean by that, it's essentially a battle manga, a battle anime. It gives me the vibes of Naruto, One Piece, and Dragon Ball. And the very next round of the sports festival is going to get very traditional, especially for fans of Dragon Ball, because we're going to have a fighting tournament! And what's most interesting about it, it's going to be based on a point system, with whoever won the last round basically being the one that everyone's going to be going after. But there is an interesting twist. It appears that the students are going to be able to team up with one another, which I cannot wait to see who's actually going to team up with Izuku. I mean, obviously, it's probably going to be standbys like Ochako and Tenya, but I can't wait to see if anybody else is going to decide to go with them, and I can't wait to see some of the battles that are about to take place. I've been waiting for a traditional tournament arc from the series. This is the type of show that I think would be the perfect place to use it, considering that all of the characters have unique abilities, and I can't wait to see them go up against each other. The possibilities are endless in the beginning of the UA Sports Festival, and I can't wait to see more. So what's the rundown on this week's episode of My Hero Academia? It was freaking fantastic. It was just a really fun episode to watch, and it focused on so many different characters, and there were so many little moments from this episode that just felt right and super awesome. I especially love that they still managed to focus on the side characters of the series, and they also managed to add in a little bit of humor as well. Like at the very end, when everybody's making their way through the very end of the race course, you have Momo, who barely makes it through, and then you have Minoru, who is hanging out on her back, basically killing two birds with one stone, which I honestly don't think he has a problem with at all. Not to mention all of the other brand new characters who are introduced in this episode, a lot of them being students from the other classes that we haven't seen, such as this one dude who I swear looks like the Titan transformation of Eren Yeager from Attack on Titan, just a smaller version of that. He has like a bone face and he makes it in there. There's a girl who has these weird thorny plant-like hair, and she manages to make it in the top. And a few other characters, which frankly I can't even describe. I mean, there are some of them that have horns, there are some of them that look like lizards, there are some of them that are frankly invisible. This was just a freaking weird and crazy episode, but it was so much fun, and you could really feel a lot of the energy behind it. You could tell that the animators were having a lot of fun with this one. The moment where Izuku flies past both Shoto and Katsuki is just such a great moment, made even better by the fact that he manages to slam that piece of the robot down and send them back while he flies forward. Just, man, that was great. The moment when he made eye contact with All Might up there and he was so proud of him, that was such a great moment, you know? You really are there the entire time. Like I said, this is an underdog story, so you're going to want to have to root for the main character, and Izuku is such a likable character, so it's easy to get behind that. The scene where his mother is watching on TV and starts to cry is just so adorable. Even the villains are watching on their own TV, getting a little worried that they might be seeing the next All Might before their eyes. So, what more can I say? This was a great episode. On the production side of things, the animation looked really solid throughout the entire episode. It helps that all of the characters are incredibly distinctive and get to do really fun things with their powers, and they totally take advantage of that. The color palette of the show is honestly one of my favorite things about it. It's very striking, it's very bold, and it makes a great use of color. Like, everything just looks so damn eye-popping, it's amazing. And we're about to get a big tournament arc, so let's get excited for that. What more can I say? Great episode of My Hero Academia. 5 out of 5 from me. If you're not watching this show, check it out. You will not be disappointed. So, there's my thoughts on this week's episode of My Hero Academia. Make sure to tell me what you thought about it in the comments section below. Did you have a favorite scene from this episode? What did you think of Izuku winning the very first round? What sort of battles are you hoping to see in this upcoming tournament? Make sure to tell me in the comments section below. Thanks again for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for all things My Hero Academia anime related. Please leave me a comment or two. I'd love to talk with you guys about this week's episode. And of course, if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give it a thumbs down. I'll see you guys next time. And as always, stay dandy, baby.